6 months later, Maya stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly as Earth's youngest ever diplomatic representative. The Grand Hall buzzed with translation, devices working overtime as representatives from 47 different species listened to her address the old Galactic Council had dissolved. 3 weeks after the Dragon broadcast, unable to maintain authority, once their authoritarian methods had been exposed to galactic scrutiny, in its place a new cooperative assembly had formed, based on principles the Dragons had helped develop. When I first met the Dragons, Maya began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber, I was just a scared teenager who thought first contact would be about proving humanity was worthy of joining galactic civilization. She paused, looking out at the diverse array of beings before her. Andromedan crystal entities sparkled in their environmental suits. Vegan plant forms rustled with interest. Even a few reformed council species, including some Zentani, listened with careful attention. What I learned was that civilization itself needed to evolve. The Dragons didn't just show us better technology, they showed us better ways of thinking, better ways of being. Through the quantum communication network that now connected most of known space, Maya felt the warm presence of her dragon friends on Kepler 442b. The planet had become a pilgrimage site for species wanting to learn symbiosis technology, and a neutral meeting ground for diplomatic negotiations. Today, I'm here to announce the success of the first human-dragon joint research project, Maya continued. We have successfully integrated crystal consciousness technology with human neural networks, creating the first truly cooperative artificial intelligence. A holographic display activated, showing images from the research station on Kepler 442b. Human scientists worked alongside dragons and crystal entities, their minds linked through quantum networks that preserved individual identity while enabling collective problem-solving. But more than that, Maya said, her voice growing stronger, we've proven that different types of consciousness can cooperate without losing what makes them unique. Humans bring curiosity and adaptability, dragons bring wisdom and patience, crystal consciousness brings memory and processing power. Together we've solved problems that have plagued our species for millennia: poverty, resource scarcity, territorial conflicts. Not through conquest or control, but through understanding and cooperation. Ambassador Veltar of the Andromedan Federation rose to speak. Representative Chen, there are still those who fear these developments. Former council hardliners claim that your alliance with the Dragons represents a threat to species independence. Maya nodded. I understand those concerns. Change is frightening, especially when it challenges fundamental assumptions about how civilization should work. She activated another holographic display, this one showing the transformed systems where dragon symbiosis technology had been implemented. But look at the results. The Centauri colonies have eliminated poverty. The Proxima trade routes have ended resource wars. Species that were enemies for centuries are now research partners. The Dragons didn't conquer us or absorb us. They helped us become more ourselves than we ever thought possible. Through the quantum network, Maya felt a familiar presence touch her mind. The Keeper Dragon she had first befriended was participating in the assembly session remotely, its consciousness traveling instantly across space through the crystal network. Tell them about the children, the Keeper suggested warmly. Maya smiled. There's something else you should know. The first generation of children born in human-dragon cooperative communities are showing remarkable abilities. Enhanced empathy, intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics, and natural telepathic sensitivity. They're not becoming less human. They're becoming more than any of us imagined humans could be. Representative Zix of the former council species shifted uncomfortably. And what of those who choose not to participate in this? Evolution? They're free to live however they choose, Maya said simply. That's the difference between cooperation and conquest. Dragon symbiosis is offered, never forced. Communities that want to remain isolated are respected and protected. But most don't want to remain isolated once they understand what cooperation offers. She gestured to another display showing communication networks spanning the galaxy. We've established quantum communication links between over 200 worlds. Species are sharing knowledge, art, philosophy, and resources on a scale never before possible. And it all started because a scared teenager decided to trust a dragon instead of shooting it. The assembly chamber erupted in the various sounds that different species made to express approval. Maya felt the waves of positive emotion through the quantum network, a harmony of minds from across the galaxy united in hope for the future. But there was one presence notably absent from the celebration. Former Counselor Vexhai had disappeared shortly after the Council's dissolution, along with several ships and a significant number of hardliner loyalists. Intelligence reports suggested they were attempting to establish a shadow government in the Outer Rim, far from the influence of the new cooperative networks. Maya wasn't naive enough to think the transformation would be complete or unopposed. There would always be those who preferred domination to cooperation, fear to understanding, but they were no longer the dominant voice in galactic affairs. The small warrior has become a bridge between worlds, the Keeper Dragon communicated privately. As we hoped she would. What's next for the Human-Dragon Alliance? Asked Ambassador Chen of the Sol Federation. Maya grinned at sharing a name with Earth's representative. The galaxy was vast, but sometimes it felt remarkably small. We're planning something that's never been attempted before, Maya announced. A multi-species consciousness network that will allow voluntary participants to share experiences and knowledge directly across species. Barriers. Imagine a vegan botanist instantly sharing the sensation of photosynthesis with a human artist. An Andromedan energy being showing a dragon how to manipulate stellar radiation. A human child teaching an ancient crystal consciousness what wonder feels like. We're calling it the Harmony Project, and it represents the next step in galactic evolution. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Maya was describing nothing less than the potential unification of galactic consciousness while preserving individual identity and species distinctiveness. The dragons believe that consciousness is the fundamental force of the universe, Maya explained. Not matter, not energy, but awareness itself. They think that by linking conscious beings across species and space, we might be able to solve problems we can't even imagine yet. And maybe, she added quietly, we might finally understand what we're all doing here in this vast, beautiful, terrifying universe. As the assembly session concluded and representatives began discussing the proposals through their various diplomatic channels, Maya felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She had started this journey as a frightened teenager trying to prevent a war. She was ending it as a young woman helping to build a new kind of civilization. Through the quantum network, she felt the presence of her dragon friends, the warm support of human colleagues, and the vast, interconnected web of consciousness that was slowly but surely linking the galaxy together. Maya Chen, now 18 and the youngest sentient being ever to address a galactic assembly, smiled as she looked out at the stars through the great windows of the assembly hall. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and for the first time in galactic history, its diverse inhabitants were choosing to explore those wonders together rather than fight over them. It had all started with a girl and a dragon, and one simple choice to trust instead of fear. The future, Maya thought as she felt the harmony of minds singing through the quantum network, was going to be extraordinary. The next hour transformed Maya's understanding of what civilization could be. The dragons didn't just show their technology, they shared it. Through the expanded telepathic network, Maya found herself experiencing life on Kepler 442b from a dragon's perspective. She soared through crystal canyons that sang with harmonized frequencies, dove through underground rivers that flowed with liquid light, and rested in communal spaces where biological and artificial intelligences merged in perfect harmony. This is incredible. Dr. Kim's voice crackled over the communication system. She was watching the proceedings from the ship, but the quantum broadcast was allowing her to experience some of the telepathic sharing. Maya, they're showing us solutions to problems we didn't even know we had. Through the Dragon Network, Maya felt the gentle presence of the planetary crystal consciousness. It wasn't artificial intelligence in the way humans understood the term. It was genuinely alive, a form of crystalline life that had evolved alongside the dragons over millions of years. We learned long ago that survival meant cooperation. The crystal consciousness communicated through harmonics that felt like wind chimes in Maya's mind. Your kind stands at the same crossroads we once faced. The Keeper Dragon guided Maya to a small crystal formation that glowed with soft, warm light. When she placed her hands on its surface, images flooded her consciousness. She saw human cities reimagined with integrated crystal networks, poverty eliminated through shared resources, conflicts resolved through empathic communication rather than violence. They're offering to help us, Maya whispered, amazed. They want to share everything they've learned. But the visions went deeper than just technology. Maya saw philosophical concepts that challenged everything she thought she knew about intelligence, consciousness, and the nature of existence itself. The dragons had learned to think collectively while maintaining individual identity. They had solved the problem of resource scarcity through symbiosis rather than competition. Most importantly, they had learned to see the universe as a vast web of interconnected consciousness, where every species had something valuable to contribute. The cold voice ones fear this vision, the warrior dragon communicated sadly. They rule through scarcity and fear. Abundance and cooperation threaten their power. Maya nodded, understanding now why Counselor Vexhai was so determined to eliminate the dragons. It wasn't about galactic security. It was about maintaining a system of control that depended on keeping species isolated and competitive. Through the ship's communication system, she could hear reports flooding in from across the galaxy. The Dragon broadcast had triggered emergency diplomatic sessions, peace rallies, and demands for council reform on dozens of worlds. Species that had been enemies for centuries were beginning to communicate directly through the quantum network. Status report. Vexhai's voice cut through the wonder, cold and sharp. Your hour is nearly expired, Miss Chen. Maya looked around at the security team, all of whom were now sitting peacefully among the dragons, sharing memories and experiences through the telepathic network. Officer Torres was actually laughing as a young dragon showed him how to make the crystals sing in harmony. Counselor, I think you need to see this for yourself, Maya said. The dragons are offering to share their symbiosis technology with the entire galaxy. They want to help us create abundance instead of fighting over scarcity. Impossible. No species shares advanced technology freely. These ones do, Maya said simply. That's what makes them different from us. The keeper dragon approached Maya, its great head lowering so she could maintain physical contact. Through the connection, she felt the creature's sadness and hope in equal measure. We have waited so long for sky metal beings who could hear our song, the keeper communicated. Your species shows promise, small warrior. But can you overcome the fear voices among your people? Maya felt the weight of that question. The dragons were offering humanity a chance to join a truly advanced civilization, one based on cooperation and mutual aid, rather than competition and exploitation. But accepting that offer would mean fundamentally changing how human society was organized. And there were powerful forces, represented by beings like Vexhai, who would rather destroy the dragons than allow that change to happen. There's something you need to understand. Counselor, Maya said, her voice carrying new authority. The dragons aren't just offering to share their technology. They're offering to help us evolve beyond the need for authoritarian control systems. The silence that followed was deafening. Maya had just openly challenged the fundamental basis of Galactic Council authority, and she had done it while half the galaxy was listening. Miss Chen. Vexhai's voice was dangerously quiet. You are advocating for the overthrow of legitimate galactic government. I'm advocating for growth, Maya replied. The dragons have shown us that there's a better way to organize civilization. Aren't we supposed to be explorers? Shouldn't we be excited about discovering new possibilities? Through the dragon network, Maya felt the collective breath of an entire planetary civilization being held. The next few moments would determine whether this contact led to a new age of cooperation or triggered a war that could destroy both species. The Andromedan Federation is formally requesting observer status for any further negotiations, Captain Rodriguez reported from the ship. The Vegan Collective is offering to mediate. Sir, we have 17 different species asking to participate in formal first contact protocols. Maya felt the dragon's amazement ripple through the network. In their long history, they had never encountered anything like this. Usually, first contact was a private affair between two species. But the quantum broadcast had made this a galactic event, you see, Maya said, turning to address not just Vexhai but the broader galactic audience she knew was listening. This is what cooperation looks like. Instead of one powerful species deciding the fate of another, we have the entire galactic community coming together to witness and participate. The largest warrior dragon, the scarred veteran who had first protected Maya, approached the shuttle landing area. Its massive form was intimidating, but its mental presence radiated calm dignity. We offer friendship to all who come in peace, the warrior communicated. its thoughts somehow reaching beyond the local network to touch minds across space. We offer our knowledge, our partnership, our hope for a galaxy where wisdom guides strength. But we will not bow to those who rule through fear. Maya felt the galactic audience react to that declaration. Here was a species clearly capable of defending itself, but choosing to offer cooperation instead of demanding submission. It was exactly the opposite of how the Council typically established relationships with newly contacted species. "Your hour is expired, Miss Chen," Vexhai announced. "Return to the shuttle immediately." Maya looked around at the crystal formations, the peaceful dragons, the human security team that had found harmony with their former enemies. She thought about the vision she had shared, the possibilities for human civilization that the dragons had shown her. "I'm sorry, Counselor," she said quietly. "I can't do that. I beg your pardon?" Maya Chen, 17 years old and standing at the crossroads of galactic history, made her choice. "I'm requesting political asylum with the dragon civilization. As a representative of humanity, I want to stay and help negotiate a formal alliance." The gasp that went up from the ship's communication system told her that her words had been broadcast across the galaxy. She had just become the first human to choose an alien species over human authority, and she had never felt more human in her life. The crystal formations across Kepler 442b began to sing. Maya felt it first as a vibration in her bones, then as a harmonic frequency that seemed to resonate with her very soul. Through her mental connection with the dragons, she understood what was happening. The planetary consciousness was preparing to broadcast their civilization's story to every inhabited world in the galaxy. "What is that sound?" one of the security officers called out, lowering his weapon as the haunting melody filled the air. Maya smiled, feeling the dragon's determination flowing through the network. "It's a song of welcome. They're inviting everyone to witness true first contact." Counselor Vexhai's voice crackled over the communication system, sharp with alarm. "All teams, report status. We're detecting massive energy signatures from the planet's surface." The Keeper Dragon settled beside Maya, its great head lowering so she could rest her hand against its warm scales. Through the contact, she felt the full scope of what the dragons were planning. "Every world with Crystal Singer technology will hear our song," the Keeper explained. "Every species that has learned to listen to quantum harmonics will witness this moment." Maya's eyes widened as she realized the implications. Dozens of advanced civilizations throughout the galaxy used quantum communication technology. The dragons were essentially hijacking every quantum communication network to broadcast their story in real time. "You're creating a galactic live stream," Maya whispered in amazement. "We prefer to think of it as an invitation to learn," the Keeper replied with what Maya was beginning to recognize as dragon humor. Through the ship's communication equipment, Maya could hear frantic reports from across the galaxy. Quantum communication networks were lighting up with incoming data streams. Scientific stations, diplomatic outposts, even some council facilities were receiving the dragon broadcast. The song grew stronger, and Maya felt images and emotions flowing through the network. The dragons were sharing their entire history, their philosophy, their technology, and most importantly, their hopes for peaceful coexistence with other species. But they were also sharing something else. Every memory they had of contact with other species. Every broken promise, every act of violence. Every time visitors had come claiming peaceful intentions only to begin, harvesting resources and destroying ecosystems. The Galactic Council's own dark history was being broadcast for all to see. "Shut it down." Vexhai's voice was apoplectic with rage. "Jam their transmissions." "Sir, we can't," came the pilot's worried response. "They're using quantum entanglement across multiple dimensional frequencies. Our jamming technology can't touch it." Maya felt a surge of pride through the Dragon network. They weren't just advanced. They were operating on levels of physics that the Council didn't even understand yet. The warrior dragon that had first protected her stepped forward, its scarred form towering over the security team. But instead of threat displays, its scales showed patterns of solemn dignity. Warriors of the sky metal ships, its mental voice reached not just Maya, but somehow the entire security team. Several officers stumbled as the telepathic contact hit them. "We offer you choice. Violence or wisdom. Fear or understanding. It's in my head," one officer whispered, his weapon trembling in his hands. "Mine too," another confirmed. "But it's not hostile. It's like it's asking permission to communicate." Maya realized what was happening. The dragons were carefully extending their telepathic abilities to the human security team, giving them a chance to experience direct mental contact. It was an incredible risk. If the humans panicked, the resulting fear could trigger exactly the kind of violence the dragons were trying to avoid. But Maya felt the dragons' faith in humanity's potential for wisdom, their hope that direct communication could overcome years of mistrust and misunderstanding. One by one, the security officers began lowering their weapons as dragon thoughts touched their minds. Maya watched their faces change from suspicion to wonder as they experienced the dragon's memories and emotions firsthand. "They're not monsters," Officer Torres breathed, his eyes wide with amazement. They're like us. They have families, children they're trying to protect." "I can see their city," another officer whispered. "It's beautiful, built into the crystal formations, completely integrated with the environment. They're not conquerors. They're gardeners." Through the mental network, Maya felt the dragon's relief. For the first time in centuries, beings from space were seeing them as they truly were. Not as the savage beasts their fear had painted them, but Counselor Vexhai was not among those experiencing the revelation. "Hostile mind control confirmed," he snarled over the communication channel. "All teams fall back to minimum safe distance and prepare for orbital bombardment." Maya felt the dragon's shock and horror ripple through the network. They had been preparing for individual violence, but orbital bombardment would destroy entire crystal groves and kill thousands of their people. The cold voice one speaks of world burning. The warrior dragon's mental voice was grim. "We cannot allow this. Wait," Maya said urgently, both aloud and through the mental connection. "Give me one more chance. Let me try to reach him." She activated her communication link to the shuttle. "Counselor Vexhai, this is Maya Chen. I'm requesting permission to address you directly." "Miss Chen, you are under arrest for treason against the Galactic Council. You will submit to immediate extraction." "Sir, with respect, I think you need to understand what's really happening here," Maya said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "The dragons aren't the threat you think they are. They have demonstrated hostile telepathic capabilities and are broadcasting classified council information across the galaxy without authorization. They're sharing their own history, including how they've been treated by council species," Maya corrected. "And the telepathic contact is voluntary. They're only communicating with people who choose to listen." There was a pause before Vexhai responded, and when he did, his voice carried a new edge of desperation. "Miss Chen, you clearly don't understand the larger implications. These creatures possess technology that could destabilize the entire galactic political structure." "You mean they could make authoritarian control obsolete?" Maya shot back. "You're not afraid they'll destroy the council. You're afraid they'll prove there's a better way to organize civilization." The silence that followed was telling. Through the dragon network, Maya could sense thousands of minds across the galaxy following the conversation. The quantum broadcast was carrying not just dragon memories, but this entire exchange. The Council's true motivations were being exposed in real time to every advanced species in known space. "Sir," came a new voice over the communication channel. It was Captain Rodriguez from the Prometheus. "I'm receiving communications from Council headquarters. The Galactic broadcast has triggered emergency diplomatic sessions on 17 worlds. The Andromedan Federation is demanding explanations. The Vegan Collective is calling for Council investigations. Sir, the entire galaxy is watching this situation." Maya felt hope surge through the dragon network. The broadcast was working. Instead of being isolated and vulnerable, the dragons had made their situation the most visible diplomatic crisis in galactic history. The small warrior's plan succeeds. The Keeper Dragon communicated privately to Maya. "The Sky Metal rulers cannot bring violence while all eyes watch." But Maya knew it wasn't over yet. Vexhai might be trapped by galactic scrutiny, but that only meant he would look for other ways to eliminate what he saw as a threat to Council authority. "Counselor," Maya said carefully, "I'd like to propose a formal first contact protocol. Let the dragons demonstrate their civilization properly. Let them show the galaxy what they've built here. And why would I agree to such a proposal? Because refusing would look like you're afraid of what peaceful contact might reveal," Maya said bluntly. "And because right now about half the galaxy is watching to see whether the Council believes in its own stated principles of peaceful exploration and cultural exchange." Through the Dragon Network, Maya felt a ripple of amusement. The dragons were beginning to understand human political dynamics, and they found the concept of being trapped by one's own stated principles rather entertaining. The communication channel was quiet for a long moment before Vex-High responded.
Very well.
You have 1 hour to conduct your formal first contact. But Miss Chen, if these creatures show any sign of aggression or deception, I will not hesitate to protect galactic security. Maya smiled, feeling the dragon's excited anticipation flowing through the mental network. 1 hour to prove that cooperation was stronger than conquest, that wisdom was more powerful than fear. 1 hour to change the course of galactic civilization. Understood, Counselor. 1 hour to show you what the future looks like. Energy blasts seared the air around Maya as she walked toward the approaching warrior dragons. Behind her, the security team had taken defensive positions, their weapons charging with deadly humming sounds. The peaceful crystal formation was now lit by the harsh glare of combat lighting and weapon fire. The largest warrior dragon, its scales scarred and dark with age, landed directly in front of Maya with a bone-shaking thud. Its breath was like standing next to a fusion reactor, and its 6 eyes blazed with ancient fury. This creature had seen war before, Maya realized. It had watched its people die at the hands of beings from the sky. Small sky metal being, the warrior's mental voice crashed into Maya's consciousness like a thunderclap. You reek of deathmakers. Your packmates bring fire pain. Maya's dragon friend, the Keeper, moved to stand beside her. The contrast between the two creatures was striking. Where the warrior was scarred and dark, the Keeper's scales still held gentle patterns of gold and silver. Where the warrior radiated barely controlled violence, the Keeper projected protective calm. She is different. The Keeper's mental voice was firm. This one hears our song. She comes seeking harmony, not conquest. The warrior dragon's massive head swung between Maya and the ongoing firefight behind her. More energy blasts lit up the crystalline landscape as additional council security forces engaged with other arriving warrior dragons. Words are wind, the warrior snarled mentally. The sky metal beings always speak of peace while their deathmakers burn our young. Maya felt a stab of pain through the mental connection. Images flashed through her mind, memories from the warrior dragon. Previous encounters with other species, ships that had come claiming scientific interest, only to begin harvesting crystals and killing any dragons that tried to stop them. The warrior had seen its mate die defending a crystal grove from alien miners. I'm sorry, Maya whispered, knowing the creature could hear her thoughts as well as her words. I'm so sorry for what others have done to your people. The warrior's eyes narrowed, studying her with predatory intensity. Sorry words change nothing. The dead remained silent. Behind Maya, Counselor Vex-High's voice cut through the chaos. Hostile telepathic contact confirmed. The creature is attempting mind control. Eliminate the threat. Maya felt the sudden targeting of multiple weapons on her position. The security team was preparing to fire through her to hit the dragons. In seconds, she would be caught in crossfire between two species that had never learned to trust each other. Run, small one. The warrior dragon's voice held unexpected gentleness. This is not your death to die. No, Maya said aloud, standing straighter. This is exactly my death to die if it comes to that. She turned toward the security team, placing herself directly between them and the dragons. Ceasefire. Stand down. Miss Chen, move away from the hostile entities immediately, Vex-High commanded. They're not hostile, Maya shouted back. They're defending their home from what they see as invaders. Wouldn't you do the same? I am ordering you to step aside so we can neutralize the threat. Maya spread her arms wide, making herself as visible a barrier as possible. Then you'll have to go through me first. The standoff stretched for a moment that felt like eternity. Maya could feel the tension in the mental connection with the dragons, their confusion at her actions. Why would she risk death for creatures she had just met? Then the warrior dragon did something that changed everything. It stepped forward, placing its massive bulk directly behind Maya, its scarred head lowering protectively over her small form. This small sky metal being offers her life spark for strangers. The warrior's mental voice carried wonder and something that might have been respect. She shows warrior heart without bearing deathmakers. The other dragons began landing around them, forming a protective circle. Maya found herself at the center of a ring of ancient, powerful beings who had just chosen to trust her judgment over thousands of years of bitter experience. Through their shared mental connection, Maya felt the complex web of dragon society. The keepers, who tended the crystal networks and preserved knowledge. The warriors who defended their people from threats. The singers, who maintained the harmonious relationship between dragon and crystal consciousness. All of them linked through the crystal network into a planetary civilization based on symbiosis and cooperation, and all of them now unified in protecting one small human girl who had shown them something they hadn't seen in centuries. Courage without violence. Stand down your weapons, Maya called to the security team, her voice carrying newfound authority. I'm establishing peaceful contact. Miss Chen, you are in violation of direct orders, Vexhai snarled. You will move away from those creatures immediately, or face charges of treason against the Galactic Council. Maya felt the dragon's reactions to the counselor's words. Cold fury rippled through the mental network, and she realized they understood more of the conversation than anyone had realized. Their years of observing alien visitors had taught them to recognize threatening tones and hostile body language. The cold voice one seeks dragon death, the warrior communicated. We have heard such voices before. They speak peace words while preparing war actions. You're right, Maya admitted, her heart heavy. He didn't come here to study you or communicate with you. He came here to find an excuse to eliminate you. The revelation sent shockwaves through the dragon network. Maya felt their pain, their betrayal, their growing anger. For a moment she feared she might have just triggered the very war she was trying to prevent. But then the keeper dragon stepped forward, its gentle presence calming the others. Show them, it said simply. Show the small sky metal being what harmony looks like. The crystal formation behind them suddenly blazed with brilliant light. Energy flowed through the dragon network and into the crystals, creating a light show that put the aurora borealis to shame. But this wasn't just beautiful. It was functional. Maya gasped as information flooded her mind through the dragon connection. The crystals weren't just communication devices. They were a form of quantum computer that processed the collective consciousness of the entire dragon species. Every memory, every discovery, every piece of knowledge was stored and shared through the network. She saw the true history of Kepler 442b. The dragons hadn't evolved on this planet. They had been refugees, fleeing the destruction of their original homeworld by a species not unlike the Galactic Council. They had found this planet already inhabited by the crystal consciousness, and instead of conquering it, they had formed a partnership. Dragons provided mobile consciousness and decision-making capability. Crystals provided memory storage and computational power. Together, they had created a civilization based on perfect harmony between biological and artificial intelligence. They're not just intelligent, Maya whispered, awed by what she was seeing. They're post-singularity. They've solved the problem of biological and artificial intelligence integration. Through the security team's communication equipment, she could hear Vexhai reporting to his ship. Confirmed telepathic capabilities, high-level technology integration. These creatures represent a significant threat to Council superiority. Recommend immediate elimination before they can share their capabilities with other species. Maya felt sick. The counselor wasn't afraid of the dragon's potential for violence. He was afraid of their potential for peace. A species that had learned to integrate biological and artificial intelligence would make the Council's authoritarian control methods obsolete. We know. The warrior dragon's mental voice was grim. It is always thus with the rule-makers. They fear what they cannot control. But you can defend yourselves, Maya said. You have technology far beyond what the Council possesses. We could burn their sky metal shells, the warrior agreed. But then we become the death-makers we despise. The crystal song would be poisoned by violence memory. Maya understood. The dragon's technology was based on harmony and cooperation. Using it for violence would fundamentally alter the nature of their civilization. They couldn't defend themselves without destroying what they were trying to protect. Then we need to find another way, Maya said firmly. A way that proves you're not a threat without forcing you to become violent. She looked around at the ring of dragons surrounding her, their ancient eyes reflecting wisdom and hope in equal measure. In the distance, she could see more Council security forces arriving, their weapons powered and ready. What does the small warrior suggest? The keeper asked. Maya Chen, 17 years old and standing at the nexus of an interspecies crisis, smiled grimly. We're going to do something that's going to scare Counselor Vexhai more than any weapon could. What is that? We're going to invite the entire galaxy to see what real civilization looks like. The dragon's scales flickered with patterns that Maya was beginning to recognize as laughter. Around them, the crystal network hummed with new purpose as the planetary consciousness began reaching out across space, preparing to share the dragon civilization's greatest gift. The knowledge that intelligence and wisdom were not the same thing, and that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the courage to create. The shuttle Hermes descended through Kepler 442b's purple atmosphere, with Maya's heart hammering against her ribs. She sat between two council security officers, their weapons prominently displayed, while Counselor Vexhai reviewed tactical displays at the front of the craft. "Target approach Crystal Formation Delta 7, announced the pilot. "Dragon presence confirmed. 3 adults, scales indicating high agitation levels." Maya pressed her face to the small porthole beside her seat. Below, she could see the crystal formation rising from the planet's surface like a frozen waterfall. The structures were beautiful, translucent towers that caught and refracted the alien sunlight into rainbow patterns. Around their base, 3 dragons moved in tight defensive circles. "Counselor," Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady, "if you let me approach alone first, I might be able to establish peaceful contact. You will accompany the security team as planned," Vexhai replied without looking up from his displays. "When the creatures attack, you will serve as proof of their aggressive nature." "What if they don't attack?" Maya asked. For the first time, the counselor turned to look at her directly. "Then you will be very surprised by how quickly creatures can change their minds about violence." The implication hit Maya like ice water. Vexhai wasn't just expecting the dragons to attack. If they didn't, he was planning to make it look like they had. The shuttle touched down with a soft thud about 200 meters from the crystal formation. Through the porthole, Maya could see the dragons had stopped their circling. They stood motionless, their 6 eyes fixed on the shuttle, scales flickering with rapid patterns of blue and silver. "Remember," the senior security officer addressed Maya, "stay behind us at all times. Do not approach the creatures directly. If they show signs of aggression, drop to the ground immediately." Maya nodded, but her mind was racing. The dragons weren't showing aggression. Their body language was tense, yes, but defensive rather than hostile. Their wings were folded, not spread for attack. Their heads were raised in alert observation, not lowered for a charge. The shuttle door hissed open and the security team moved out in formation. Maya followed, immediately struck by the alien landscape around her. The ground was covered in crystalline grass that chimed softly in the breeze, and the air smelled like ozone and flowers. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth standard, making each step feel bouncy and strange. The largest dragon, its scales a deep green gold, took a single step forward. Its massive head tilted slightly to one side, and Maya realized it was studying them with the same careful attention they were showing it. "Magnificent specimens," Counselor Vexhai said, his voice carrying clearly across the distance. "It will be unfortunate when they force us to defend ourselves." The dragon's scales suddenly blazed with bright patterns of light. Maya gasped as she recognized the mathematical sequences she had seen from the ship. They were trying to communicate again, showing their intelligence. "Look," Maya called out, pointing to the nearest dragon. "They're displaying prime numbers. 7, 11, 13, 17. They're trying to show us they understand mathematics." "Trained responses," Vexhai said dismissively. "Many animals can be taught to repeat patterns." But Maya wasn't listening anymore. She was watching the largest dragon, and what she saw made her heart leap. The creature was looking directly at her, not at the security officers or the counselor. Its eyes held an unmistakable intelligence and something else. Recognition. The dragon remembered her from their brief moment of connection on the ship. Moving very slowly, Maya raised her right hand and placed it over her heart, then extended it toward the dragon in the same greeting gesture she had seen the creature make through the observation deck window. The dragon's scales immediately shifted to soft silver and blue patterns. It mimicked her gesture exactly, one massive claw touching its chest before extending toward her. "Remarkable," whispered one of the security officers. "It's learning." "It's not learning," Maya said, her voice filled with wonder. "It's greeting me. It remembers our first contact." Before anyone could stop her, Maya took a step forward. The security officers raised their weapons, but the dragon didn't react aggressively. Instead, it lowered its great head in what was clearly a peaceful gesture. Miss Chen returned to formation immediately, Vexai commanded. Maya ignored him. The dragon was making soft, musical sounds, and the crystal formation behind it was responding with gentle pulses of light. The other two dragons had relaxed their defensive postures and were watching the interaction with obvious curiosity. Maya took another step forward, and the large dragon responded by settling onto its belly, bringing its head down to Maya's eye level. Up close, she could see that its scales weren't just changing color randomly. They were forming complex patterns that reminded her of written language. "Hello," Maya said softly. "My name is Maya. I'm here to learn about you." The dragon's eyes widened and its scales flickered with rapid patterns of gold and white. Behind it, the crystal formation suddenly blazed with corresponding light, and Maya felt a strange tingling in her mind. Images flooded her consciousness. Not her own thoughts, but something else. Memories that weren't hers. She saw the planet as it had been millions of years ago, covered in crystal forests that sang with the voices of the dragons. She saw the slow evolution of the partnership between the reptilian beings and the living crystals, the development of a symbiotic civilization that spanned the entire world, and she saw fear. The terror the dragons felt when the first human ships had appeared in their sky, bringing with them the electromagnetic signatures of weapons and the cold metal scent of conquest. Maya staggered, overwhelmed by the alien emotions. The dragon's voice whispered in her mind, not in words, but in concepts and feelings. "We are the keepers. The crystals are our voices, our memories, our souls. We thought you came to silence us forever." "No," Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We didn't know. We didn't understand what you were. You understand now." The dragon's mental voice was warm with hope. "You hear our song." Behind Maya, she could hear Counselor Vexai shouting orders to the security team. He was calling her behavior clear evidence of hostile mind control and demanding immediate extraction. "Wait," Maya called back, but she never took her eyes off the dragon. "They're not hostile. They're trying to share their knowledge with us." The dragon's scales suddenly flared bright red, and Maya felt a stab of alarm through their mental connection. Other dragons were approaching, but these weren't the peaceful keepers she had been communicating with. These dragons were larger, scarred from battles, and their scales showed the dark patterns of anger and fear. "The warriors come." Her dragon friend's voice was urgent in her mind. "They do not trust as I do. They have seen too much death from sky metal beings." Maya turned to see a dozen dragons approaching from all directions, their wings spread wide in threat displays. These weren't the curious, intelligent beings she had been connecting with. These were soldiers, and they saw the armed security team as exactly what they were: invaders. "Everyone stay calm," Maya shouted, but the security officers were already raising their weapons. Counselor Vexhai's voice rang out across the crystalline plain, filled with cold satisfaction. "Fire! Defend yourselves!" The first energy blast lit up the alien sky, and Maya watched in horror as peaceful contact turned into exactly the battle Vexhai had wanted from the beginning. Her dragon friend reared up to its full height, scales blazing with protective patterns, placing its massive body between Maya and the approaching warrior dragons. "Trust," the creature's voice whispered in her mind. "Show them what trust looks like." Maya Chen, 17 years old and standing in the middle of an interspecies war zone, made the biggest decision of her life. She stepped out from behind her protector and walked directly toward the approaching warrior dragons, her hands raised in peaceful greeting. If she was going to die, she would die trying to prove that humans could be better than their worst impulses. The future of two species hung in the balance, and Maya was determined not to let fear win. Maya spent the night in the ship's laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays of dragon communication patterns and crystal energy readings. Dr. Kim had agreed to help her, bringing coffee and encouragement as Maya worked through mathematical models and linguistic theories. "The dragons use base 8 mathematics," Maya explained, pointing to a series of light patterns she had recorded. "See how their scales flash in groups of 8? Their entire number system is built around octagonal symmetry. It matches the crystal formations perfectly." Dr. Kim nodded, though Maya could see the exhaustion in her eyes. "That's fascinating, but Maya, even if you're right about all this, Captain Rodriguez will never let you leave the ship. It's too dangerous." Then I'll have to make him understand that not going is more dangerous, Maya said, pulling up the tactical display. Look at this. The screen showed the positions of dragon groups across the planet's surface. What had initially appeared to be random distribution now revealed an obvious pattern. The dragons were stationed at every major crystal formation, and those formations created a network that spanned the entire planet. They're not just protecting individual crystal sites, Maya continued. They're guarding a planetary communication system. Maybe even a planetary consciousness. If the Galactic Council classifies this as a restricted zone, they'll likely authorize mining operations to study the crystals. That would be like someone ripping out parts of our internet infrastructure to see how it works. Dr. Kim sat down heavily in a chair. You think the dragons would fight back? I think they'd have to, Maya said grimly. And then the council would declare them a hostile species. After that, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Both of them knew what happened to species classified as hostile by the Galactic Council. A soft chime from the communication system interrupted their conversation. Captain Rodriguez's voice filled the laboratory. All senior staff to the bridge. The Galactic Council delegation has arrived early. Maya and Dr. Kim exchanged glances before hurrying to the bridge. Through the main view screen, they could see a massive council cruiser settling into orbit beside the Prometheus. The ship was 3 times their size, its hull decorated with the emblems of a dozen different alien species. Counselor Vexhai is requesting immediate transport to our ship, reported Lieutenant Torres. He wants to interview our research team and review all data on the Draconis Mortalis. Maya felt her stomach drop. Counselor Vexhai was notorious throughout the galaxy for his ruthless efficiency in dealing with problematic species. His own people, the Zentani, had become part of the Galactic Council only after they had systematically eliminated every other intelligent species on their homeworld. Prepare the main conference room, Captain Rodriguez ordered. Full formal protocol. As the crew prepared for the counselor's arrival, Maya noticed movement on the planet's surface through the observation deck windows. Dragon groups were converging on the crystal sites, their formations becoming more defensive. They knew something was wrong. Dr. Kim, Maya whispered urgently, the dragons are responding to the council ship. Look at the crystal network activity. The energy readings from the planet's surface had spiked dramatically. The crystal formations were pulsing in rapid, agitated patterns, and the dragons were responding with increasingly bright displays of bioluminescence. It's like they can sense danger, Dr. Kim murmured. But how? Maya's mind raced. The crystals are quantum processors. They might be detecting the energy signatures from the council ship's weapon systems. The dragons know they're in danger. Before Dr. Kim could respond, the ship's transport system activated, and Counselor Vexhai materialized on the bridge. He was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like polished stone and forearms that ended in razor-sharp claws. His black eyes swept the bridge with predatory intensity. Captain Rodriguez, the counselor's voice was like grinding metal. I have reviewed your preliminary reports. These creatures pose a significant threat to galactic security. Their energy manipulation capabilities could be weaponized. With respect, Counselor, Captain Rodriguez began, our research suggests they are intelligent beings capable of communication. Intelligence does not negate threat, Vexhai replied coldly. The Zentani were intelligent. The Mordak were intelligent. Both species chose violence over cooperation. I will not allow another hostile species to endanger Council worlds. Maya stepped forward before she could stop herself. Counselor, if I may, the dragons haven't shown any signs of hostility. They're protecting their communication network because they don't understand our intentions. 4 alien eyes turned to focus on her, and Maya felt like a mouse being studied by a snake. And you are? Maya Chen, xenolinguistic specialist, she said, hoping her voice sounded steadier than she felt. I've been studying their communication patterns. They're trying to establish peaceful contact. Counselor Vexhai's lipless mouth curved in what might have been a smile. A human child claims to understand alien motivations. How typical. He turned back to Captain Rodriguez. I will conduct my own assessment. Prepare a shuttle for planetary surface reconnaissance. Sir, Dr. Kim interjected. We don't recommend direct approach to the dragon territories. They become agitated when we get too close to the crystal formations. Then we will test their commitment to defending these formations, Vexhai said with chilling calmness. If they respond with violence, the matter will be settled. Maya felt horror wash over her. The counselor wasn't planning to study the dragons or attempt communication. He was planning to provoke them into attacking, giving him justification for elimination orders. "You can't do that," Maya said, her voice rising. "They're not violent by nature. They're just scared. Fear breeds violence, young human. It is better to eliminate potential threats before they can act on that fear." Vexhi's claws clicked against his belt, where Maya noticed he carried what looked like a weapon. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Maya looked around at the faces of the crew members, seeing a mixture of fear, disgust, and helplessness. They all knew what was about to happen, but none of them had the authority to stop it. Through the viewscreen, Maya could see the dragons' formations tightening around the crystal sites. Their scales were flashing in rapid, urgent patterns. They were warning each other, preparing for whatever was coming. "I volunteer to go down with the reconnaissance team," Maya said suddenly. Every head on the bridge turned to stare at her. Captain Rodriguez's face went pale. "Absolutely not. You're a minor under my protection. I'm also the only person on the ship who's made any progress understanding their communication," Maya shot back. "If you're determined to make contact, let me try to do it peacefully first." Counselor Vexhi studied her with those predatory eyes. "Interesting. You would risk your life for creatures you've never met?" "I would risk my life to prevent unnecessary violence," Maya said firmly. "That's what humans do." Something flickered across the counselor's face that might have been surprise or amusement. "Very well. You may accompany the reconnaissance team. When the creatures attack, as they inevitably will, your death will serve as additional evidence of their hostile nature." Dr. Kim grabbed Maya's arm. "Maya, no. This is insane." But Maya was already moving toward the transport bay, her mind working furiously. She had perhaps an hour before the shuttle reached the planet's surface. An hour to figure out how to communicate with beings that no human had ever spoken to before. An hour to prevent what could become the extinction of an entire intelligent species. As she walked, Maya could feel Counselor Vexhi's cold gaze on her back. She didn't turn around, but she could hear the clicking of his claws against his weapon. The counselor expected her to die down there, expected the dragons to kill her, proving their dangerous nature and justifying whatever brutal response he had planned. Maya Chen, 17 years old and terrified but determined, was going to prove him wrong. She had to. The fate of two species might depend on it. Maya Chen pressed her face against the cold metal of the observation deck, watching the swirling purple clouds of Kepler 442b through the reinforced glass. At 17, she was the youngest person aboard the research vessel Prometheus, and definitely the only one who wasn't terrified of their current mission. "Stay away from the windows." "Kid?" Dr. Harrison called from behind a bank of computers. His weathered face showed the strain of 3 sleepless nights. "The electromagnetic storms on this planet can fry your brain through the hull if you're not careful." Maya rolled her eyes but stepped back. The adult crew members had been jumpy ever since they'd entered this star system. Kepler 442b was supposed to be uninhabited, a perfect candidate for human colonization. Rich atmosphere, abundant water, fertile soil. The only problem was the locals nobody had expected to find. The Draconis mortalis, as the xenobiologists had named them, were 30-foot-long creatures that looked like someone had crossed a traditional earth dragon with a living nightmare. Their scales shifted color like oil on water. Their 6 eyes could see across multiple spectrums, and their breath could melt through titanium alloy. In the 3 weeks since first contact, they had destroyed 2 survey drones and nearly killed a landing party. "The Galactic Council is sending a delegation," Captain Rodriguez announced over the ship's intercom. "They want to see these creatures for themselves before deciding whether to classify this planet as a restricted zone." Maya's heart sank. A restricted zone classification meant humans would never be allowed to settle here. It also meant the dragons would likely be studied from afar, treated as dangerous animals rather than the intelligent beings Maya suspected they truly were. She had been watching them through the ship's telescopes for days. The way they moved wasn't random or instinctual. They built structures, communicated through complex light patterns along their scales, and seemed to have a social hierarchy. But every time the research team tried to make contact, the dragons responded with aggressive displays and warning attacks. "They're protecting something," Maya muttered to herself, adjusting the telescope's focus. Through the lens, she could see a group of 3 dragons circling what looked like a crystal formation. jutting from the planet's surface. The crystals pulsed with the same bioluminescent patterns as the dragon's scales. "What are you looking at?" Dr. Sarah Kim, the team's xenobiologist, appeared beside her. Unlike the others, Dr. Kim had always treated Maya as an equal, rather than a child who shouldn't be on the mission. "The dragons?" Maya said, stepping aside so Dr. Kim could look. "I think they're trying to tell us something, but we're not listening properly." Dr. Kim peered through the telescope, her brow furrowing. "The patterns on their scales do seem to correspond to the crystal formations. Almost like they're singing to them?" "Exactly." Maya's excitement bubbled over. "What if the crystals aren't just rocks? What if they're some kind of communication network? The dragons might think we're trying to destroy their internet." Dr. Kim laughed despite herself. "Their internet? Maya, that's quite a leap. Is it, though?" Maya pulled up the spectral analysis data on her tablet. "Look at the electromagnetic readings from those crystals. They're not just conducting energy, they're processing it, converting it into patterns that match exactly with the dragon's bioluminescence." Before Dr. Kim could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled over the intercom, tight with tension. "All hands to stations. We have multiple Draconis Mortalis approaching the ship. This is not a drill." Through the observation deck windows, Maya could see them coming. 7 dragons flying in perfect formation, their scales blazing with coordinated light patterns. They weren't attacking, she realized. They were trying to communicate. "Captain," Maya grabbed the nearest communication device. "Don't raise the shields. They're not hostile. Miss Chen, get away from that comm and report to your quarters immediately." Captain Rodriguez barked back. But Maya was already moving, Dr. Kim close behind her. They reached the communications center just as the weapons officer was powering up the ship's defensive systems. "Wait," Dr. Kim called out. "Maya might be right. Look at their formation." On the main display, the dragons had arranged themselves in a complex geometric pattern around the ship. Their scales were flashing in perfect synchronization, creating waves of color that rippled across their formation like a living kaleidoscope. "It's beautiful," whispered Lieutenant Torres from the navigation station. Maya stared at the pattern, her mind racing. She had been studying alien languages and communication theory since she was 12, dreaming of moments exactly like this. The pattern wasn't random. It was mathematical, precise, deliberate. "They're showing us pi," she breathed. "Look, the color sequence. Red, blue, green, gold, red, blue, blue, green. If you assign numbers to the colors, it's 3.14159.265. They're demonstrating mathematical understanding." Captain Rodriguez moved to stand beside her, his expression shifting from alarm to amazement. "How could you possibly know that?" "Because math is universal," Maya said, her voice growing stronger. "They're trying to prove they're intelligent, that they understand concepts beyond instinct." As if responding to her words, the dragon's pattern shifted. The mathematical sequence grew more complex, incorporating what looked like equations Maya recognized from her advanced physics studies. "My God," Dr. Kim whispered. "They're not just intelligent. They're showing us principles of quantum mechanics. How is that possible?" Maya's tablet beeped with an incoming data stream from the ship's external sensors. The crystal formations on the planet's surface were responding to the dragon's display, lighting up in corresponding patterns. It was like watching a conversation between the dragons and the planet itself. "The crystals are their technology," Maya said, the pieces clicking together in her mind. "Not tools they made, but partners they evolved with. The dragons and the crystals are symbiotically linked. That's why they're protecting them." The largest dragon, its scales a deep emerald green shot through with silver, broke from the formation and approached the ship directly, its eyes fixed on the observation deck where Maya stood. And for a moment that lasted an eternity. Human and dragon regarded each other across the void. Then the dragon did something that made everyone on the bridge gasp. It placed one massive claw against its chest, then extended it toward Maya in what was unmistakably a greeting gesture, a gesture of respect from one intelligent being to another. "I have to go down there," Maya said quietly. "I have to try to talk to them properly." "Absolutely not," Captain Rodriguez said immediately. "You're a minor under my protection, and those creatures are extremely dangerous." But Maya was no longer listening to the captain. She was watching the dragon, and the dragon was watching her. In its ancient eyes, she saw something that made her heart race with possibility. Intelligence, yes, but more than that. Hope. The same hope she felt burning in her own chest. Tomorrow, the Galactic Council delegation would arrive to pass judgment on an entire species. Maya Chen, 17 years old and determined, had less than 24 hours to prove that humanity could do better than fear what they didn't understand. She had 24 hours to bridge the gap between two species, or watch as first contact became first tragedy.